Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. I hope that you are all well. And if you are new, thanks for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. Today I am doing a book haul revisit. I am going to take a look back at February 2021 and 2022 to see how many books I hauled and how many of those books I've read, how many I still have on my TBR, and how many of those books that may have fallen down the TBR. So I'm not going to go into great detail about what these books are all about, but I will leave all of the links below to the original haul videos and also to the revisit that I did in February 2022. So you can go and check those out. So let's start with the February 2021 haul. I hauled 8 books in February 2021. And when I did my revisit in 2022, I hadn't read any of the books. So now it's February 2023 and I have read one of the books. I read The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. And I actually read it quite recently, just in January. And I will also be talking about this book again in a video coming up next week. So stay tuned for that. So that does leave 7 books from this haul still left unread, and there are 2 that are pretty high up on my TBR. The Music Shop by Rachel Joyce and Wilder Girls by Rory Power. And I've almost picked these up a few times now, and for some reason they just keep getting put aside, but I'm pretty confident that they will get read definitely this year. The rest of these books from this haul, I haven't forgotten about them, but they've not been on the top of my mind and the top of the TBR. There is My Bookstore. Writers celebrate their favorite places to browse, read, and shop. And this is edited by Ronald. And I know that when I do get to this, I will be taking copious notes of places to visit. And then sticking with the book theme, I have Summer Hours at the Robbers Library, and this is by Sue Halpern. And then I also have The Bookworm by Mitch Silver, which I think I just picked up solely because it was called The Bookworm. So these are now, all back on my radar. I do love books about books, so I will eventually get to all of these. The last 2 books are Days of Distraction by Alexandra Chang, which I don't really remember a whole lot about what it's about, except that a woman follows her boyfriend to upstate New York, and my guess is that it probably doesn't go as well as planned. And then the other book is nonfiction, Beneath the Tamarind Tree by Isha Sesay. I'm actually surprised that I haven't read this yet, because it is about the abduction of girls in Nigeria. And I remember really following this story, so I do need to catch up on this one. So this haul still needs some attention, but I'm glad that I got at least 1 read. It's moving in the right direction. Looking back at February 2022, there was more success. I hauled 10 books in February 2022, and I am very, very happy to say that I have read 8 of them. Now, 5 of them were for the BookTube prize last year, so I was judging translated fiction. So for that, I read Where You Come From by Sasa Stanisic. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. This is translated from the German by Damion Searls. I also read Strange Beasts of China by Yan Ji. This is translated from the Chinese by Jeremy Tiang. Khalil by Yasmina Khadra, and this is translated from the French by John Cullen. And then there was Loop by Brenda Lozano. This is translated from the Spanish by Annie McDermott. And Magma by Thora Hjorleifsdottir. This is translated from the Icelandic by Meg Matich. So my 2 favorites from these BookTube prize books were Khalil and Magma, and I just thought that they were both very well written. The other books that I hauled and read were Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This was a gifted copy from Deb. And I still have The Martian to read by him, so I want to get to that this year. I also picked up Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, which I had already read, but not since I was like 11 or 12 years old. And I picked up this time the definitive edition for a read-along that AJ from AJ Dunn Reads and Writes was hosting. And there are some obvious differences between the definitive edition and the edition that I read when I was 12. So I'm glad that I read this edition this time around. And then I also picked up, let me see here, The Betrayal of Anne Frank, a cold case investigation, and this is by Rosemary Sullivan. And I read it in preparation for that read-along last year. So I had actually read a few books about Anne Frank last year, kind of leading up to the read-along. And this was an interesting read. I guess I was mostly surprised that there was even an investigation still going on. I had never really, thought of there being more to the story. But each book that I read about Anne Frank added more layers to what I already knew, or what I thought I knew, and what I was already familiar with. So that leaves 2 books from this haul that I haven't read. And the first is Losing Our Minds, The Challenge of Defining Mental Illness by Lucy Folks. And I do think that I will get to this year. If I haven't read it by November, then I think that it will definitely be a contender for nonfiction November. And the last book that I hauled is Strangers I Know by Claudia Durastanti. This is translated by Elizabeth Harris. And I did kind of forget about this book, so I'm glad that I have been reminded about it. It has a number of things that I like in a book. It's about family dynamics. It takes place in Italy and New York, so those are 2 places which are, some of my favorite places that I love. And I believe that it's supposed to have a bit of humor, so I always enjoy that. So with the 2 hauls, I hauled a total of 18 books, and so far I've read 9 of them. So half of them isn't bad. I'd like to do better. I like that I really only need to read 2 more from the 2022 haul, and then that will be complete, but I definitely have some work to do on 2021's haul. Plus, next week, I will be sharing the books that I hauled this year, and as you know, I'm really trying to haul less books, so stay tuned to see if I brought in less than 8 books this month. Please let me know if you have read any of these books that I've hauled, especially if they are the ones that I haven't read yet. That will kind of help me decide, if there are any that you would recommend that I start with, then I can look forward to getting to all of that. So I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.